we go. And I'm sure other people will file on in, but welcome to the new Life After Trauma course. Yay, 2025. So this is only the second time I've held this course. So I'm looking forward to it because last time I was very much in baby brain mode. I still couldn't remember many nouns for things. So I feel like I'm a little bit better now. um, but working with trauma is something we do naturally in clinic, but we learn a lot of techniques, but learning the actual journey that is healing is something that we really, really need to get a good handle on. How I came about it is just through experience over a long, long time, through hearing thousands of stories. And after a while, you begin to see a pattern in healing. When I started kinesiology, when I started doing therapy, I was only 19. So I had to um, put anything that I didn't have a way to anchor in on life experience. I had to get my clients to teach me a lot of things. So I entered every single session with so much curiosity and just tell me more, keep telling me everything that you can. And that's really how I discovered how humans work, I guess. Loads of self reflection, loads of working with people. And so I've been in clinic now. I think everyone really knows me here, so I won't go too much into that. Um, but over 18 years, thousands of clients. So I've pretty much heard everything that there is to hear. I feel like, anyway, nothing really surprises me anymore. Um, so I am just in that mode where I just want to pass on everything to everyone, because I think it's actually a real hole that's missing. And someone said yesterday, what we do is bridging the gap between therapies. And I loved that because it really does feel like that sometimes, where we are the bridge that connects all the different things. And it's like people can come, and they often do, they come and they into our space and they go, I've got a bit from here and I've got a bit from here, I've got a bit from here, but how can we make it me? How do we bring me out? Um, and so, whether you're a somatic practitioner, counselor, naturopath, whatever, trauma is going to be coming in through your door. And how we hold that space is really, really, really important. So I will go into the content, but what I really wanted to focus on today is self-regulation and being able to come from a space of, I think often what we do unconsciously is we step into that space of having to know everything or having to fix things. And we put that pressure on ourselves to have the answers. And so what happens is that when you encounter a place where you don't know the answers, you put yourself in a dysregulated space. And you can easily start to spiral from that place because it brings up all of your self-doubt. And then you're reacting and you're not really able to go into that curiosity space and that real trying to really hear what's happening. All trauma really, really needs is to be heard, to have that safe place to be heard. And we'll go over that throughout the whole course in the different ways that we need to be heard. But that's really what we're doing for people, is being able to really hear without a but, or do this now, or the body and the soul and the mind and the heart all want to heal. And it will show you how it wants to heal. Nothing I teach you, nothing that other people teach you is going to be that shocking to you, I think, most of the time. Because if you're in a space of listening, if you're in a space of being able to really be present with your clients, then you'll start to see that it naturally does happen. But let's close your eyes, take some really big deep breaths. Sit and feel your feet anchored into the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to tune into the different feelings of emotions in our body. Because the more in tune you are with your own emotions, the more that you're able to listen and respond to them rather than react to them. So if you're coming in, and if you're safe somewhere, you're not driving or anything, close your eyes, take some big deep breaths. Okay. And I want you to experiment with the tapping into different emotions and then being able to pull yourself back from them and let them be, so that you're able to witness them and feel them. But I want you to find a way where you can visualize that or feel that, whichever way is right for you. And they're coming up in front of you. That's the way how I see it. So it's not of you, it's within your aura, but not in you. They're there to be heard. It's like a child tugging at your ankle. It's like you're compassionate, you're kind, but you're focused on something else. So I'm present with you, but I'm also just doing this important thing right now. So even if you want to see it like that, you're putting your hand gently out. And I want you to let yourself feel the feeling of self-doubt. You tap into a memory in clinic or in life where you started to feel yourself doubt yourself. And I want you to be really present with what happens physically in your posture, where the tension is, what happens to your breathing when you have self-doubt. And then I want you to imagine yourself pulling yourself out of that into present state. You ground it again. You take a big deep breath out. Your tongue flattens on the roof of your mouth. And you relax. And you enter curiosity again. Openness. And then I want you to see if you can feel anger. And what happens in your body if someone challenges you or pushes back. And feel your body go into that emotion. And then choose to return. So this is going to be really, really important for you to practice. Is that watching yourself go in and out of states. Being able to return back to regulation whenever you choose to. As a therapist, this is going to be really important no matter what. When you're ready, roll your wrists and your ankles. Roll your shoulders and come back. Does anyone have any feedback on how that felt, or whether that was super hard or Did anybody find it particularly difficult to come in and out of that state? No? That's good. I thought you guys would ace it. But when we're talking about trauma, it's that's kind of the space that you're always in. It's okay. Just really watching all those emotions rise in you and then being able to pull back on it. The other important thing is that it's not so much, hang on, it's not so much that it's within the session. Often it's after the session as well that you enter in that dysregulated space. That's when the self-doubt and everything can pop up. So again, just getting to know your own spaces is really important. Anger coming up with the self-doubt, yeah. So you're going to have all of these emotions attached to it, and that's an interaction between us and other humans. We trigger each other, and the fact is that I was saying this morning as well. It's like therapists will have one of two reactions. They either react to their clients, and then we see them down the line dealing with that trauma, or we maintain curiosity and openness. And it's so easy to think that we will always maintain that curiosity, but you're human, and there are going to be times when you're tired and burnt out, or you're not feeling amazing, or you're going through your own inner shit, and someone else's stuff triggers your own. So just remembering, if you've ever found yourself in that space, it's okay. We can repair things, but the less we do it, obviously, the better. But yeah, we are always going to go into spaces of self-doubt, especially when there's big stuff to work through our clients with. Any questions or comments about all of that before we go into it a bit more? Put your hand up if you want as well. Mandy, did you want to chat, or are you just moving your camera? There you go. Hello.
Sorry, Emma. Yes, just trying to get organised.
No worries.
I had trouble logging on.
Oh, I know. It's always like that the first time. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, all good now.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, what is trauma and what does it need? It's kind of what we're here for, right? So, if you've been with me a while, many of you have probably heard these kind of things from me before, but it's always good to update it. So, trauma is Greek for wound, and wounds naturally heal. But what happens in trauma is it's not so much the trauma that causes pain and everything. It does. It's the lack of healing afterwards that really creates chaos and discomfort. So what does trauma need to actually heal? And the answer is connection and safety and expression of grief. So anytime there's trauma, it's a feeling of disconnection. It's a feeling of lack of safety. So what humans naturally feel the safest when we're in a tribe, in the belonging, we're in the center and we're held. That's when our nervous systems feel particularly safe. We can look at those around us and they feel safe. And so all of our senses go, okay, everything's okay. So that's really the space that we hold in clinic, is that belonging, safety. You're here, it's okay, I'm holding you. When trauma happens, no matter what that trauma is, what it does is it isolates us. So at the core of every trauma is a feeling of isolation. Now, what happens in the human psyche is that when you're disconnected, when you're lonely, we're flooded with shame. So shame comes up because it says you need to remember never to do this again. This disconnects us from everyone and everything. This is why public speaking is humans' greatest fear, right? Because it puts you on the outside of the tribe. All of our senses and or like it being seen in class, all of those things as kids, it's that being looked at. So all of a sudden you're feeling like you're on the outside of a tribe. So all of your senses go, this is not safe, this is not okay. So shame comes in and says, we need to remember this moment. You need to remember never to do this again. It's a yucky, uncomfortable feeling. And the aim for it is that you go back into the tribe and you remember never to place never to place your foot outside that line again. It's like gives us that boundaries around it. But what happens in society and the way that we are as humans now is that the repair isn't there. So once we're cast out, felt alone, disconnected, and then we're flooded with shame, if we can't find safety and connection after that, if there's not a safe or connected place to go to, where our grief is held, where we can talk about that shame, we can talk about the loneliness and heal it with connection. So again, wound opens, connection heals. And then we hold that as a secret. Because what has happened is we felt alone, we felt ashamed. But if we go to somebody, there's more risk. There's more risk of being hurt. There's more risk of being vulnerable. There's more risk of being cast out. And so humans have learned to keep it secret. And then we hold that tension in our bodies, in our psyches, in our nervous system. And we play pretend. So instead of finding connection, safety, we come in, we curl in, and we say, I've felt so alone and scared, and someone holds us. And someone says, it's okay. It's not your fault. So instead of that, we have the opposite. And we hold it. And because we can't find connection and safety, we look for a pretense, another way to find safety. And that's what I call the door to safety. DOOR, to safety. And the door to safety is our way of trying to replace connection and safety. So it's like a temporary relief. And that's where all behavior and addictions come from. It's trying to find a door to safety. So it's our flight response that is looking. So we've held that tension, something frightening has happened, we've been cut out of where we felt safe and secure. And now we've got to try and find some sort of safety back. But we're still holding the shame and the fear and everything else. So we look for temporary relief and we go, okay, well, how did our parents find safety? What did they use to cope when they were stressed? Does that help? What about the people around me? Does that help? So it can be, in small kids, it's I want often. I want this. That's why I want often leads to a meltdown, is because they're trying to get to a door to safety. through a door to safety, trying to find some sort of relief from the fear and loneliness that they feel. But the parents see it as behavior. And so they go, no, you can't have that. But they're not recognizing that it's a flight response in need at that moment. So I'm not saying that as parents you give them that what they want, but you can see that they're overwhelmed and they need connection at this point. And so hopefully once they start realizing that, they can provide connection and presence rather than give them what they want. Does that make sense? With adults, we all have our coping mechanisms. You reach for a coffee, you reach for sugar, you reach for an argument, you reach for isolation, you reach for some self-doubt and, go inward and beat ourselves up for a while. Everybody has their way. And the reason why people are coming into us is that their door to safety no longer is working for them anymore. And they don't know how to find proper safety. But what we've really forgotten as a society, that it's connection and it's just being heard. Not the right thing said, not the right thing done, not a technique, not a procedure. Pure, open-hearted connection, being heard. And then the nervous system can empty. And once it's empty, it's like after a storm. The storm is really crappy, it's really shit, it can feel like the world's falling in. But the clouds always part, and there's always sunshine and rainbows afterwards. So when you look at trauma that is held for a long time, it always comes back to they couldn't express their pain and hurt, or it wasn't heard. And that's what has held it in the body. So they've kept that pain and hurt as a secret. Is this making sense? So it's a process to get to that point. As you can't just pull someone's shame right out of the box, you have to let them kind of unwind it a little bit. So the way that we set that space up is understanding first. So people have to have that mental cognitive understanding. They need to have some sort of safe place in their life to set up so that they can grieve safely. So if someone's in the heart of dealing with a trauma, if it's an ongoing trauma, then it's not the time to fall apart and grieve and be held, all that kind of stuff. They have to get through to the other side. They have to get to safety before then you fall apart. So often my people are like, everything's really good in my life, but I can't stop crying. It's like, yeah, well, this is the time, or their OCD thoughts all pop up. Health anxiety pops up as soon as safety is found. All of these underlying things start to come to the surface and the body goes, all right, we're in a good place to get back to homeostasis. Let's get rid of this stuff. Let's form connection again. And then the nervous system goes, no, connection's not safe, remember? So then we don't know what to do. And we fear and we panic. How are we going with all of that, guys? Any questions or comments or... How are we processing through it all? Everyone, at this point, everyone gets really silent. Just, okay, let me take it all in. Hey, Lara.
Hi. So if I've got this right, once we are regulated and if we've dealt with our trauma and everything, then if we've got healthy coping mechanisms, it's okay to then put ourselves sometimes out of our discomfort and sort of step away from the tribe because we know that we know how to regulate and we can come back to safety, and then That way it's
Yeah.
okay and doesn't
Yeah,
become.
or we've formed connections and safety outside of our original tribe. And so we can make that jump nicely. It's like why I set up the practitioner table and the apprenticeship is so that you're not you you've come out of being a student, and that was your sense of belonging, but then most practitioners don't really have a safe place to go to
Mm.
after that, which is why 90% of us fail. It's like there's no safe place afterwards, there's no belonging afterwards. You kind of feel alone, and it's easy for shame to kind of grab you down. um, but if you have that safe place and that belonging, it's kind of like what happens in teenagehood, and from about 8 onwards, really, you start looking outside of your tribe that you grew up in. We'll go through this later in the course a bit more as well, but you start looking outside of your tribe and going, all right, where are the tribes that make me feel safe? And so your experience there does form then a lot of the basis for your relationships down the line, because you've learned whether that's safe or not to go outside of your tribe, or where you're accepted and where you're not. But we'll go into all of that. Does that make sense? Yeah. What's it bringing up for other people? Are there any, even you can talk about client cases or what you're thinking about it all as a whole? Hey, Erin.
Hey Emma, how are you?
Good.
I've got a question. So I've got a client that's come in. She's probably in her late 40s, maybe early 50s. A lot of trauma from childhood. Got taken away from her mother as a baby. Pretty much was reared in foster homes with her brother. He's very mentally ill in mental health facility, and all this stuff's kind of coming up for her again about her childhood and that kind of thing. And to be honest, I did feel a little bit overwhelmed when she came in because there's so much trauma there, and she's clearly still in Moro reflex, like gripping, that kind of thing. So I've only seen her once, but she's coming back again. And it was more just like talking with her, building a little bit of a relationship with her, giving her some practices to find connection with herself. But in that situation, is it like she's got a husband and she's got older kids, but she doesn't really have that connection with girlfriends or anything like that? So is that something that's kind of important to form even with herself at the start? Or like I'm a little bit lost where to go to it, because it's,
Well,
yeah.
if you think about trauma being grief, unprocessed grief, and if you think of the experience of the child who has been to foster homes and been taken away from a lot of different people, you can imagine how much grief she has.
And
so,
safety, like a safe,
yeah,
yeah.
So what I would do in that time, and let's chime in anybody else as well with your own experience and wisdom. But I would be teaching her how to grieve and giving her a framework of, okay, grief is going to come up and this is what it's going to feel like. And this is what, this is what your body needs. It's an emptying of pain. You have been hurt so many times and it's never felt safe to feel it. But now your body's saying it's time to feel it. And so it comes up, but I promise you, it comes out. If vulnerability hasn't ever felt safe, if you've never been seen and heard and connected to, then that's an incredibly scary experience, is to have all that grief come up. Because all of your nervous system is going, this isn't safe, this isn't safe, this is going to put me in more danger. And so we have to teach them how to grieve how to grieve safely. So the way that we grieve safely is it comes out, it's just expression. Sadness just needs expression. So it doesn't have to come out always with tears and crying and everything. It can come out through writing or drawing or movement. But usually there's tears there as well. It's a cracking open, you empty it back into the earth. That's how I describe it. But again, we can't force it. So a lot of what she might be doing at first, so remember, sometimes you have to create that understanding before you feel it. And so she might be trying to piece everything together. So another tool that I use there is to get them to write their life story. Because when you're in trauma, you remember snippets, but it gets really jumbled up. And so I'll often get them to get a folder with some loose leaf. And I do that because they can go back and forth and rearrange things as they need. And then they write down things that are kind of popping up. So it doesn't even really need to be a big story. It's just this happened in this order. And what you're doing there is you're also bringing it from the right brain, which is all experiential and emotional, into the left brain, which sequences and files things. And then that adds a whole other different perspective as well. So once you're seeing it, reading it, you're no longer in the child experiencing that. You're reading it from the language of an adult. And it's fed back through the nervous system to be, so it's no longer just in the limbic system, your frontal lobes are processing it. Does that make sense? So just allowing her to speak and try and make sense of things, and then helping her to grieve as it comes up.
Thank you.
That's okay. Has anybody else got anything they want to share there? Hey, Annie.
So interesting, obviously, how things play out. I had someone, a 24-year-old girl, contact me, just a phone call, really nervous about coming in, didn't go into her trauma, just obviously has a lot of trauma, has been to another therapist. I didn't connect with her. So there's been a really a bad experience there for her. She's coming in. So obviously I'm going to sit with curiosity and just let her share, and obviously she's got to feel safe, so it's about that. Is something like what you just said, and I understand getting it from the experiential right brain into that left brain so that they can start to process it, is something like actually getting her to write the sequence, if it's appropriate, a really good thing for her for homework? So once we've connected, she's felt safe, she's going to test me, as I know, and see, what my response is. And but sending her home to do an exercise like that would be something that would be beneficial for her.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that should
Like, what's the
always-
context behind it? Do you mind giving me a little bit more there?
I don't have a lot of context.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
I didn't actually go into the trauma with her. I just,
Okay.
we were on a conversation, and she kept saying, I've got all this stuff, and I can't process it. I can't cope. I'm not coping well in life. My nervous system's not going well. And I said, well, obviously you've got a lot of trauma going on. We don't need to get into that today, but I'd love to, step you through this process of letting go of all of what it is. So when you have somebody come in and they're there and they're expressing the trauma, and there is something like getting them to write it down. It's just such a great idea.
In that case, see how her wording has said, I don't know what to do with it.
She doesn't know yet.
Yeah. So that's why she's engaged with you.
Yep.
Is because she needs that connection and that safety. So she's already said to you in her language, is it's coming up, but I need somewhere safe. And she doesn't find herself safe, obviously.
No.
So in that case, it wouldn't be something that I jump into, you go process it on your own, because that's how she would probably interpret it, is that
Okay.
you've sent her away to deal with it on her own.
Yep.
I would say something like, start from the beginning. as soon as they say something like that, just start from the beginning. For them to find that courage so think about the amount of courage it takes to find someone, to book in,
She said this.
to come in the door, to then say to you, I don't know what to do with this. Like, already she's expressed so much courage and vulnerability in that moment that, we can really miss that opportunity to really, okay, she's already started telling you. So what, I'm not judging you at all, but by protecting her and saying we don't have to do that.
Oh no, it was just literally an
Okay.
introductory phone call. It wasn't a
Oh,
session.
okay, yeah. So if you jump in and you say we don't have to do that, and
I never
it's
did
so easy to do because we're trying to make them feel okay,
No,
right?
I'd never do that. It was
Yeah.
literally an introductory
Okay.
phone call. She was coming in as a lead to me.
Okay.
And so then I've never met her. She was
Yeah.
really coming in to book in. So yeah, it was, and that's when I said to her, we don't need to do that, but I'd love to see you to step through this journey. And I guess what I was really asking was, once we've been through it in session, because she's going to come in next week, and because I know that they find it very difficult to put it into sequential order, I was wondering after the session if it was a good thing, if it was appropriate for her, if she was still having trouble, like to help her was to
Yeah.
actually write down the sequencing as something she could do external to
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
I
Sorry.
didn't explain myself.
No. Oh, good.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say no, we're not talking about that. It was literally just a lead, just a very quick call for her to come
Yeah.
in, but I didn't need to get into that.
It sounds like she's ready to dump.
She really is, but she's
Yeah.
had a bad experience with another therapist. And so
Okay.
she expressed that. And I also expressed to her, I understand that the resistance might come up for you, and that's really normal as well. But just see if you can just work through that resistance, to actually come into the session as well. But
Yeah. I mean, she's found the courage even after that bad experience to come to find you and to talk to you already. So she's ready.
Yeah.
And she obviously trusts you already to be that vulnerable already. So the way that you'll kind of know whether to go down more that I need to sequence part or I need to emotion part, when their wording and their sentences are kind of start and stop, or they start jumping from one topic to the other, or they have a memory they're not really sure of, whether it's theirs, hello loves little baby, when they're really sure or not. You can hear in their voice it's kind of a bit staccato.
Yep.
They're not really, they don't really you get what I mean?
Yep, I do.
Kind of thing.
100%. Yep, totally get it.
Yeah, so they're the moments that I'll be, okay, you go home and you start writing everything down.
Yep.
If it's more that you can see that they understand everything, they've kind of got a picture of it, they've spoken about it to lots of different counselors and psychologists before, and they've got the story under pat, they just don't know how to feel it yet. That's when if someone who's quite logical, I would get them to start writing letters to people.
Yep.
Ones that we never send. So they're still writing and processing what happened, but it's more emotional. And then they can do their own little ceremony where they burn it or whatever. But giving them permission to be completely honest without any guilt in those letters is important. Because that's often what happens, is that they even stop themselves from writing because of the guilt or fear of actually saying what they think or feel. But with this one, I would say that she probably just needs regular support. I would be seeing her even weekly. So that, because she's already said to you, I need help with feeling and thinking this. So I would just offer more support there. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Yeah.
totally. Thanks.
That's okay. Has anybody else got any comments or things that you want me to touch on a bit more? Hey, Danielle.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I just wanted to bring up a client that had probably between 6 and 12 months ago. And she came in for some back flare-ups. It was having it over the last 8 to 12 months. And then during the session, different things were triggering a lot of intense shaking in her body. Her legs were shaking uncontrollably, her chest was shaking uncontrollably. And because I hadn't really seen that in clinic before, I just continued with the session. But looking back after starting this course, I think she's probably got loads of stuff to work through because it was quite intense. So how do you sort of speak to someone, and if they don't even realize, if they're just there to sort of try out kinesiology, but they don't really understand what's happening, how do you sort of go forward and explain to them that they're probably got lots to work through, or, I mean, I'm not going to say that, but how do you sort of get them back to help them going forward?
Yeah. So a panic attack, the shaking, and there's two different ways. It can be a release type of
I think it
feel.
was probably a release.
Okay, because you can see, so if their face is contorted, if their breathing is stuck or shallow, and then
Yeah.
they're shaking, that's more like a panic.
It was more like an involuntary shake
Okay,
that she was able to allow.
yeah. Okay. So if that feels peaceful, that is the body letting go of trauma. And so, you can say that to yourself, sometimes we cry and sometimes we shake.
Yeah.
And it's your body's way of literally releasing the tension that it's held, so it's safe, and relaxed. So what will often come up after that is a whole lot of realizations and perspectives that they hadn't had before. So letting go of that after the trauma shake, it's like your brain and body have the capacity to see it all from a whole different perspective. And so you're moving out of the shock and the fear of it. And often after that, sorry, it's just started raining really heavily. Often after that, the anger will come up. So even just saying, like your body's saying that this was really intense for you. This was big for you. We'll move through this and we're going to be gentle. We're going to be okay. I'll be here with you. And after a big release like that, I'll see you next week. Again, like usually after big releases, you want to see them within a week, because there's a lot of shifts internally that will happen through that stage. And there's a lot of realizations or even flashbacks that start. You want to make sure that you are supporting them and holding them through that time. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I guess I can recognize now that my inexperience, I didn't handle it very well.
That's
I
okay.
just
Look,
let it go. I thought,
like I said,
that's a
did
good
this
release,
course
and then
because of how many
she went.
times I fucked up in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see probably would have,
yeah.
needs
I learnt by fire.
forward, and it's just being comfortable to sort of help someone recognize that reaction or what's going on in their body is, something that you can continue to hold,
And the first time that you see it in clinic, it's really scary.
I'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a client who I think I was again talking about this one this morning. Gorgeous girl, but she had a severe car accident when she was about 6 years ago, when she was 18, after HSC, and the person in the other car passed away. And so she's been really disconnected from her body since. And there's so much grief that comes from something like that when it comes up in her body, it's really frightening of how much fear and sadness is sitting in there. She's also got complex trauma from her childhood as well, so which is all being brought up. And so when and it's never felt safe for her to feel emotion in her life. She kind of had that kind of life where it wasn't safe to feel. And so when it comes up, her nervous system fights it. And so she's in this time where she understands. She spent years in psychotherapy understanding it all, and as she says, I know exactly what to reply to the therapist. I know exactly what to say, but it doesn't help, and I know all the right things, but it doesn't help. So we're helping her to move through the shock and allow the grief to come up. And even though it's really, really scary, she is for the first time feeling her body. That's the way she puts it. But yeah, as we're lying on the table, there's always a point, about 20 minutes. As soon as she starts to relax, the grief comes up. Her mind is going back into all the flashbacks, and she'll shut down and shake. I've had this so many times in the past, and they're usually people who've really been in a shock state and shut down for a long, long, long time. So when it comes up, it's so scary that it does cause like a panic reaction. And so what we do there is I bring her back into the present. Yeah, I ask her to open her eyes and make eye contact with me. I hold her, and I hold her shoulders in particular. So if you're face to face, sometimes if you feel comfortable with it, and if they feel comfortable with it at that time, sometimes I even will hold their feet in front of them, or just get them to put on a blanket or a pillow in front of them, or something that they can kind of hug. And we focus on breathing out. So at that point, we're not focusing on bringing the grief up, we're focusing on regulating the system. So breathing out, tongue to the roof of the mouth, like what I was doing with you before, that whole coming back into the regulated space. Eye contact. Breathe, you're okay, I'm here. It's just pain, it's just grief. I've got you, it's okay. And with your tone and with your energy, you're just holding it. And, we kind of laugh about it a bit, like she keeps turning up, and it keeps happening every session. But she keeps turning up and she's going through it, and she's not so scared of it anymore. But there's the reason that it's still happening. So I know the reason it's happening, but she's not ready to tell me yet, if that makes sense. So the reason it's still happening is because there's a trauma, there's a shame in there that sometimes she kind of touches on, but she can't go there yet. She can't find the words for it yet. She can't find the courage to face it yet. Not courage. There's enough going on that it feels like it's going to break her if it comes up. She's also so reliant on her family structure still, that if this secret comes up, you can see how much it's going to change everything. So I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that it's there. So having that knowledge means that this isn't just happening and I don't know what to do. This is happening, and each time it's happening, I'm gently edging into there's more there. And I know that there's more there, and it's okay. You're going to find the words for it. We will eventually find the words for it. It's okay, but we're regulating now. We're coming back into present, and it's going to be okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does anyone have questions about that process or feeling? Hey, Sarah.
Hey, sorry, I do have a question, and you can come back to me if you like, because I'm actually stepping back past that before. So if someone's got something to ask just related to that, please go before me, because I'm just going to step back to when you were talking about expressing the grief earlier.
Does anyone have any questions about that panic response? We'll touch on this in the 5 weeks anyway, over and over again. No? Feel free, Sarah. Go ahead.
Sorry, my question was back when Annie was talking about the writing things out, and you continued on to elaborate from that. It's about writing that letter, as you said, and expressing without the guilt. How do you guide them and encourage them and help them understand how to not connect that guilt? Because a lot of people, I think that's the hardest thing to for them to do it. Like that's what I'm finding. Like they'll like the idea, but I think they find it hard because they're going to feel more guilt from doing it. How do you encourage that and help them not feel that guilt?
I usually say something along the lines of, you're going to feel guilty, but that's okay. We don't have to stop the guilt. We don't have to pretend it's not there. We don't have to resolve it. It's just going to be there, because the guilt is telling you that you don't want to hurt anybody. But you writing this letter just for you, nothing's going to change on the outside world yet. This is just for you. You don't even have to reread it afterwards. You can just burn it straight away. So just reiterating that you're not going to hurt them by writing this down. And you already know this stuff inside. You know, this is not going to be anything new. And so you're feeling guilty about hurting someone with your thoughts and feelings, but you already have these thoughts and feelings. This is about actually letting them go. Yeah. Something like that in your own words. or word for word. Yeah. You go. We've probably got space for maybe like one more question today, guys. It's gone
Emma,
really
I just
fast.
had a quick question.
Hello
I've got
again.
a client. Hello again. She has an addiction,
Yeah.
but the reason why she first came in for her first session is memory loss. And she said she's had lots of childhood trauma. She explained a lot of things. I think that was obviously not memory. She couldn't remember it. She was told some of these things, like she'd been dropped as a baby and all sorts of other, like it was like my jaw dropped actually, like with all of her childhood trauma, but she could not remember anything. And then the next session, she just moved away from the memory and she's just now just focusing on, you know, the addiction as something she wants to solve rather than the memory. But obviously it's a bit difficult because she doesn't remember anything. And she just, yeah, she feels terrible about not remembering, good or bad. What type of, obviously there's something protecting her maybe from remembering all of those traumas, but how would you sort of go about with a client like that?
Usually disconnection from memory is just actual suppression of emotion. So once you allow the emotions to rise, the memory rises with it. So there's that. So she's obviously suppressing a lot of emotion, which we know from addiction anyway, because that is suppression of emotion.
Yeah.
Addiction is also loneliness.
Okay.
So at the core of every addiction is an immense amount of loneliness. So if we're thinking about setting up that safe place for her first so that she can feel and create, then that might be why she naturally wants to work on the addiction first. And remember, where there's loneliness, there's shame as well. So talking to her about self-talk, and what I often do in those situations is teach them what it feels like to be held kindly, what kindness feels like. So I do a lot of body work and nurturing to teach them what kindness and nurturing feels like. And we introduce that to their bodies, to their nervous systems, to their soul. And that often gives them the space to begin to let go. And yeah, it sounds like as well, there just wasn't a lot of kindness in her life. So solving things is probably not going to work, and like lots of mental work is probably not going to work for her a lot. We need to heal the loneliness first. And that's not mental again, it's a real feeling of feeling connected to and nurtured. So lots of kind of mama bear energy, you know, in that nurturing and feeding back to her what a kind voice in her head would feel like. So rather than solving things or asking more questions, you're saying things like, you know, without sounding cliche, like I can imagine just how hard that was for you. You know, that's an incredibly tough thing to go through. Just lots of kind of kind words back, you know, feeding back to her that what she's been through is really big. Lots of, you know, like massaging hands and head and that kind of thing. If you can't touch, then getting them to connect to themselves kindly again as well, depending on your modality. Yeah. Most of us touch the body, don't we? Is there anyone here who doesn't? No, yeah. Yeah, so just teaching them lots of kind of self skills.
She does cry. She does cry a lot.
Mhm.
But it's usually over like her siblings and what she sort of should have done, or she feels there's a lot of grief and sadness there around her relationships.
Yeah, yeah. So what she's done, it's her fault that
Yeah,
there's been disconnection. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, so lots of anger towards herself. Yeah. How do we feel about leaving it there, guys, today? Yeah. Hey, Lara.
Sorry, just one last thing quickly. You know how at the very beginning we said what's the most important thing when our clients have gone through lots of trauma come in, and it's for them to be really felt like they can be heard, right? What are some things that we can say that don't sound like cliche, you know, one-word sentences to really make them feel like I'm here with you, I'm hearing you, like, my gosh, that must have all been so hard, but, you know, not for them to think, oh, that's just what like every sort of therapist says.
Again, it's got to come from you generally, but I tend to say stuff in the right moments, like I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry that happened. Tell me more. Can you tell me a bit more about that? I get them sometimes to put themselves see yourself as another child and how you would view that. And so I kind of come from that compassionate angle where I'm seeing that this is a big thing and they should too, if that makes sense. So for instance, you know, imagine that happened to your child, what they would be feeling. Yeah.
I still often have to hold myself back from tears.
Yeah.
Stories, you know, it's just so so much, and I think together, like, don't start.
You know, you can touch your chest or something like that, you know, when that happens. Just take some big deep breaths. Yeah. So hopefully in this course as well, you'll really come to see that how powerful people are, you know, and just because they're experiencing something that's really sad doesn't make them powerless or victims. Yeah. Yeah, and it's sad, but yeah, it might be some grief as well for yourself to come, you know, that through your own stuff to come through. I always find after babies, like your little ones, I'm always teary for like a year, like just really quick. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's it now. I don't need that anymore. But it's like babies just, I don't know, it's the hormones, it's the open heart thing, that open heart. I'm like coming back after maternity leave, sobbing all of a sudden to things that I would just be able to be present for. I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, it happens. Thank you. This is such an incredible call. Thank you so much, guys. And please send me any feedback you have about the course as well. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to this journey with you. Hey, Erin.
Hey, Emma, sorry. Are we able to download the actual manual yet? Just the link wasn't
Yeah,
working.
I put a Google Drive link on it, so you should be able to press that. Yeah.
Cool. I'll try that.
It was just too big for the system.
Computer said no.
Computer said no, I know. Yeah.
So are they weekly meetings?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the next, so there's this one and then 4 others.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. I
Thank
might see
you.
some of you on the apprenticeship call now. Just switch calls.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.